welcome to Webinar Wednesday. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Some of you are already putting in the chat where you're from. Please continue to do that. We love seeing where everyone is tuning in from. We've got Enrico, an Italian from Washington, D.C. Nice. In Orlando, Florida. Great. So keep letting us know where you're from, and we'll go ahead and jump into this. So I'm going to share my screen and just a few housekeeping things. If you have to leave early today, that's okay. We will be sending a recording to everyone who registered, and we'll also post this on our YouTube channel later today or tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. We definitely want to take questions at the end. So whenever, as the presentation is going on, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. And when we get done with our notes today, we will open it up for questions and try to get through as many as we can. So thank you again, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for deciding to spend some time with us. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll dive right into it. All right. Okay, and Sarah, can you see my screen?
I can, yes.
Awesome. All right, so what have you tuned into today? Maybe you forgot. If you did, it is how Lulu can help you scale your e-commerce book business. So just a few things to get us started. If you're not familiar with Lulu and somehow you randomly landed on this webinar thinking you're going to learn about leggings or Lululemon, you will not. We make books. And we were founded in 2002 by Bob Young. Our publishing platform is free to use, over 1 million books printed, over $107 million paid out in author revenue. So our mission here is that we are dedicated to making the world a better place, one book at a time, through sustainable practices, innovative print-on-demand products, and a commitment to excellent service. So I always like to include this slide on here, but kind of furthering that commitment to making the world a better place, we are a B Corp. So B Corps are for-profit companies certified by the nonprofit B Lab, which is a third party that comes in and makes sure that we are meeting rigorous standards of social and environmental performance, accountability, and transparency. So if you're not familiar with the B Corp community, it's definitely worth checking it out. It's a group of great organizations who are working to help improve and sustain this planet that we are all sharing. The holidays aren't here yet, but around that time, if you're looking for good companies to support, B Corps are a great place to start. Okay, so who are we? Who are these disembodied voices talking to you? So I am Chelsea Bennett. I am the brand engagement manager for Lulu.
Hi, everybody. This is Sarah Gilbert. I'm the e-commerce marketing manager for Lulu, and welcoming you today.
Yes, ma'am. So we're going to go ahead and jump into it. What are we talking about today? E-commerce and how you can use that to help scale your business by implementing some e-commerce solutions. So I don't think I need to convince anyone that's on this call that e-commerce is a great way to grow your business and a great way to sell your books. But I will hit some of the highlights in case maybe you're not familiar or you're still kind of doing your research about putting together your own e-commerce bookstore. So a couple great things about e-commerce. Well, the first one is pretty standard for all websites, but you're open 24/7. So, those insomniacs that can't sleep, that somehow find your books, find your author platform, they want to support you. They need it now. They want to buy it right away. In the middle of the night, they can do it. In the middle of the day, you're open and available for business all the time. So a pretty obvious one. We've all been on the internet at different times. So pretty inherent. But it's a great thing to know that you're always available for your readers to interact with them in one way or another by having a website, by having an e-commerce presence. So the next step is no inventory. So this is a fantastic way to try out new things and to grow your business because there's not a lot of overhead. So you don't have to fill your garage with books and fulfill your orders. So using a print-on-demand provider, and there's so many available for e-commerce, Lulu obviously being one of them. But by using a print-on-demand provider, you're not having to carve out space to store books. You're not having to guesstimate how many you're going to sell any given time. Orders are processed as they come in, so you don't have to play that guessing game, which can alleviate some stress as a small business owner. The next point here is wider reach. So having an e-commerce business, having an online store is going to, open up your reach, open up your audience to literally anyone with an internet connection. So we talk about going wide when you're selling your books and putting it on multiple different distributors. That's great, but this is just another way for you to have a point of contact and a place for your readers to connect with you and to reach a wider audience outside of your geographical location. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. So next up is transactional data. So this one, I think, is one of the most exciting things, I think, especially for authors that are using these e-commerce solutions, because previously, when you're looking for a way to sell your book, whether it's through an Amazon or a Lulu.com or Barnes & Noble or wherever you're selling it, if you're going through a third-party distributor, 9 times out of 10, you can't get the transactional data of who is buying your book. You're only seeing that your book is being purchased. So being able to get that information of who is buying the book, get their email address, start that, start those marketing efforts, build that email list is so valuable, because we'll talk about this in a little bit, but you're starting to own that customer journey. So having that information can really help you market smarter, because you can run Facebook ads, you can run ads on social media, or sponsor an event, or pay to be at an event. And then when you see an uptick in sales, you're able to talk to those people and see, okay, this was really worth my while, because I can see from the data that I had more sales based on this marketing effort. This was a good use of my time. The other side of that is, of course, maybe you spend some money on some ads or try to reach a new audience and you don't see, the needle move at all on your sales through your website. So it's a good indication of what marketing efforts are working, and being able to see who is buying your book and, again, build that email list is so important and valuable when you're thinking about how to successfully market your author brand and your books. So next up is our white label products. So with a lot of e-commerce providers or businesses that run on e-commerce, you can use, again, print on demand. Lulu is powered by print on demand, but there are also companies such as Printful, which is another print on demand provider. And what that means is that you can have these products and sell them through your own website. And it looks like, I'll use Lulu, of course, as an example, but it will look like you are publishing and fulfilling these books through your own imprint. So again, with your author brand and trying to grow that brand, have that brand continuity throughout, it's really nice to be able to have that order and then all those transactions happen on your website. The orders are printed and fulfilled by Lulu, but it's your branding right down to the packaging. So again, it just looks like you have your own publishing house, your own imprint, which can be really valuable as you think about writing different books, or if you want to publish the work of other folks or work in different genres. So if you have an eye towards expanding an imprint or publishing multiple books, having a white label solution to be able to do that can be a really, really nice value add and kind of enhance your brand value and what it looks like to have that brand continuity throughout. So the next up is higher revenue per sale. So for our e-commerce solutions at Lulu, since you are selling the products directly to your audience, you're cutting out the middleman. So there are less hands kind of in the pot taking your revenue. You're selling direct to your readers. So at Lulu, when you use one of our e-commerce solutions, you're keeping 100% of the revenue. So to give you something to contrast that against, for Lulu.com's bookstore, if you sell your print books through our bookstore, the revenue split is 80-20, meaning that you as the author get 80% of the revenue, Lulu gets 20 because we're helping you distribute the books. I think for Amazon, that cut is 60-40, but going through your own website and selling directly to your readers, you're keeping 100% of that revenue. So again, depending on what your goals are, that could be really helpful to grow your business and be able to reinvest that money into marketing efforts and things like that. Last but not least on this slide is room to experiment. So a great thing about print on demand is it really gives you the ability to be really agile and responsive to your audience and to trends in the market. So this is going to be the same for any print on demand products you choose to sell. And again, what can be nice about this is picking and choosing the right suppliers for you can look a lot of different ways. So maybe you use Lulu for books. Maybe you use, again, platforms such as Printful to sell different swag that might go along with your book series. Or if you have some really great artwork, then you want to sell it as a mug or a t-shirt or things like that. So you can really have a lot of different possibilities of ways to engage and offer for your audience to support you through using a print-on-demand provider. So for Lulu, if you were selling your books through Lulu and you wanted to see how a journal would perform, or, a low content or no content branded notebook that has your author brand or some characters, or even a guided journal. However you want to make that work for you, it's completely customizable. And because print on demand means no inventory, means there's not a lot of overhead cost, you can put these products up, see how they work. And if they don't, take them down. And again, you don't have to, walk past a haul of books that you don't have anywhere to store because it wasn't the right fit for your market or anything like that. You can buy one copy as a proof. If it looks good to you, make it available for sale, and then see how your audience responds to it. So I think that's another really great thing, an exciting thing about these technologies that are available to you when you're starting to build your business and build your brand, is that you can really experiment for very low risk and potentially high reward by using print on demand and some of these technologies that are available.
Great. Hey, everybody. This is Sarah Gilbert. Thanks, Chelsea, for kicking this off. I love the term you used, market smarter. So we're going to talk about that a little bit here, as well as some of the best practices for getting set up. So we're going to talk about really what needs to be on your website if you're creating your own e-commerce website. Maybe you already have one and you want to kind of, use this as a checklist for things that really need to be on a website. So, we're at the point now with e-commerce that there are some things that people expect to see when they shop on your website. And without some of these necessary components, they may not feel the trust factor that's needed for them to check out. I mean, after all, if they're going to spend money on your website, you want them to feel confident in that process. So when it talks about what we need for a website, I mean, there are some standards here, including, different payment methods. If you have FAQs there, but really one of the most important things is going to be the value statement. So what the value statement is doesn't have to be long. You could just Google value statement and see an example of one. This is going to be really hitting up the what's in it for me factor for your audience. So if you are selling a nonfiction book, or if that's your expertise, you're likely solving a problem for somebody. So what problem are you solving? Is it, a connection through some type of journey you've had? Maybe it's your memoir and you want to explain to them how you survived a certain experience in your life, or maybe you're an expert on a how-to topic, and you could also, let them know in that value statement that they're going to learn here how to, and then insert whatever your expertise is. Now, if it's fiction, you really kind of want them to understand what they're going to get out of reading your book as the feeling. So is that going to be like, are they going to be thrilled, excited, on the edge of their seat, touched? Are they going to be, interested or wanting to learn more? And also, if there's something particular about your book that sets it apart from others, that's really the place that you might want to highlight that. So it's going to be the what's in it for me statement. And that's going to be maybe what they want to see first when they go to your website. One more thing about this that I kind of want to hit up is, when you go to a website now and you get a pop-up box for enter an email to, to visit the store, that can be something that might turn your readers off. So you want to make it inviting. There might be a time later where you can capture their contact information, and at that point they'll trust you a little bit more with it. So just be aware of some best practices there when it comes to inviting people into your site. Also, the about the author. I think this is a necessary page. Again, let's talk about this in the form of like a nonfiction versus fiction. If you are somebody who's written a nonfiction book, this is a great place to highlight your credentials, because your credentials are going to kind of speak to the expertise that you have about a particular topic. Also, maybe say something about who you are as a person, because it makes them feel connected to the author. Maybe some of your other hobbies outside of your expertise would be prudent to include at that point. If you're fiction, it's a great time to explain maybe, what your past experience might be in writing, how you arrived at the point of writing about a particular genre for fiction. Maybe it's a passion, maybe it has to do something with experience that you have in your life. So that's a great time to include that. And also have a really good author photo. A great author photo is going to be clear. It's going to be, if you just really go to published author pages, you can see what kind of author photos they have. Like if you're an animal enthusiast, it's okay to include one of you and your animal there. So again, include a photo because if you want to, it makes you connect to your readers on a different level. So your contact information, this doesn't have to be your phone number, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a direct email address, but some way for them to get in touch with you, especially now with an e-commerce site. If you're selling, and this is going to be a way for you to act as the merchant in the process, the contact information is critical because let's say something happens, the book arrives and there's something that they have a question about, or if they need to get in touch with you for an update on shipping, they need a way to be able to reach out to you. And then the FAQs, of course, are, this is a great place to stave off maybe some of that unnecessary contact by setting expectations around the timing and delivery. You can explain to them that you are using a print on demand solution, and it's likely going to print in 3 to 5 days, and you could update that as necessary. So this is a great place to let them know more about the process of ordering anything from your site. It might be a great place on the contact page too to include ways to connect with you on social media. So those are the things that you see on a website. But, a website is kind of like this, you can pull back the curtain. There's a lot that you don't see on a website, especially anybody listening who's a newbie to setting up their own website. When you go to any kind of platform to do it, I'm going to talk about a couple of those later on. There's a lot of information there about things you may not have heard of. So when it comes to analytics, so within your platform, you're likely going to have some kind of dashboard. Like let's say you use Shopify, or maybe you use WordPress. You're going to have a dashboard that gives you insights into things like sales reporting, who's buying what, the units are selling, the behavior and habits of your customers, where they spend time on your store, what pages are visited on your store. And it's almost like if you can picture you having a physical store somewhere, and you're watching your customers walk around the store and peruse different things. It's the same thing. So like you can see where people are visiting your online store with the analytics. A customer management system. Sometimes you'll hear people call this a CMS. So a CMS is just a central place where you store customer information. So this is going to be a place where you have order management, order contact information. It's just a place that you can, it's one central place where you can have all of this information at your fingertips. Search tools. So something you'll encounter when you set up a website is the opportunity to engage in SEO and SEM. SEO is search engine optimization. This is going to be setting up keywords that people might use to find your website. Search engine marketing might be initiatives that you take to connect with others, whether that's over social media. These are paid initiatives typically. Or if you wanted to connect with people over, like Google and search, and you can see paid, whenever you Google something, usually the first two things that come up are paid advertising. So again, these are initiatives people are using through search engine marketing. So that's a great place to experiment. Like Chelsea mentioned, trial and error is a great way to learn about what works and what doesn't work when you're setting up your e-commerce store. Also, I wanted to take time now, and Chelsea might talk about it a little bit later, but before I turn it over to her, let you know that we have a lot of good videos on our YouTube channel, the Lulu University series about search and ways that you can get noticed. So just wanted to let you know that. And Chelsea, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, that is true. We have a great YouTube series, and again, all of our past webinars are on there as well, and great blog resources too. And I think that SEO and SEM can be some of these topics that are a bit intimidating, and can be kind of overwhelming. Even as I was just researching for the videos that we made, there's a lot that goes into it. So I would just encourage you to kind of take it one step at a time and just kind of learning about these things, because even though our talk today is about how to scale your business and using e-commerce and Lulu to do that, just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. So having some knowledge and information about how to optimize your website and make sure that Google is finding you and sending traffic your way can kind of be that missing piece if you're not seeing the traffic that you want. Okay, so moving on to scaling and future proofing. So as I mentioned, Lulu is print on demand, and as you think about your business and how you want it to look and how you want it to grow, incorporating print on demand supply chains of partners is a really easy way. I won't say easy, because all of this does take work and effort on your part if you want it to be successful, but it takes that inventory and supply chain out of it. So you're not having to worry about all those things. Now, again, a con to that would be that, you're not in control of it. So there are going to be some times where, there may be supply chain problems, and then you need to communicate that with your customers. But for the most part, it's a great way to scale your business, because you don't have to worry about, do I have enough inventory? Can I handle these orders? Is this going to be available? Because it will be. You have that network that you're tapping into, and you're able to utilize that and leverage print on demand to, again, be more agile, expand your product base, not worry about inventory, and keep your overhead costs low. So that can be a really great way to help you kind of put in place things that will help you scale and grow as your business grows. So the next thing I wanted to mention on this slide was goal setting. So you can't, measure what you're not tracking. It's really important to say, okay, so I've started my business, I'm starting my sales, the store is open. So what does success look like to you? Is it monetary? Is it followers on social media? Is it traffic to your website? Is it hits on your website? Is it, click-throughs of your social media ads, or open rates on your emails? So these are all different things that you can measure. And depending on what your genre is, what your niche is, what your audience responds to, this can always change. So to be sure that you're able to scale, how do you know you're scaling if you're not measuring something? So I think it's really important to take some time on a regular basis, and, maybe starting out, this is more frequent. And then as you kind of get a good cadence of what information you're sharing and how you're measuring things, maybe you do this monthly, but make sure you're scheduling time on a regular basis to review your social posts. How did they perform? To review your website traffic, your SEO and your SEM. What are your analytics telling you? What are people coming to your website for? What blog posts are performing well? What content is performing well? And then as you begin to create your email list and market that way, how are your open rates looking? So there's a big difference between setting up a store, having you can have all the bells and whistles. You can have a social media, a strong social media presence. You can have a website that you're constantly updating. You can have an email list that you're sending to on a regular basis. But if you're not taking the time to review how these things are actually performing and what your audience is thinking and how they're interacting with this content, it doesn't really matter. So make sure that in the beginning, and as you're kind of thinking about your, 1, 3, 5 year plan for your business, what are those goals and those milestones that you want to hit, and how often are you measuring them and fine tuning your process to make sure you get there? So doing that in the beginning, and it'll be continuous throughout your business, but that can help make sure that you're identifying problems or areas that you may not be as strong in and working on those, identifying what content is really working and what your audience is starting to come to you for and starting to associate with your author brand. So my next tip here for scaling and future proofing is to research the competition. So I think it can be kind of odd to talk about this in terms of, book selling and things like that, but it's completely appropriate, and your competition are other authors in your genre, other folks that are selling books similar to yours, other people who are buying for the interest of your specific audience or niche. So, this will be more for, something that I do at Lulu is I subscribe to newsletters of all of our competitors and who are all great. But I subscribe to all their newsletters because I want to know what they're doing. What are they talking about? How are they talking to their audience? What topics are they deeming as important and that they want to communicate? So by doing that, it can be really helpful because I'm seeing where there's saturation in the market, what other people are talking about, what their audiences are interested in, and can we use that? Is that information that our audience is interested in? Am I seeing problems or things in their content that they're not talking about? That's an opportunity for us. So I would encourage everyone to approach your authorship, your business in that way. So if authors that are similar to you or that are again, kind of maybe have similar audiences or genres or topics, see if they have newsletters available, follow them on social media, get involved with their author websites, just be looking at them regularly to see updates. Things like this can really help you. I mean, it's so low lift. It's so easy to sign up for an email list. And then the information that you can glean from that to use for your own purposes to grow your own business could be really tremendous. So I would recommend doing that. Looking at it on the other side of like the e-commerce side, think about other shops that are maybe using print on demand for fulfillment or other stores that you like. What are they doing? So even if it's not exactly your competition, signing up for newsletters that may give you information on current e-commerce trends or new apps that can help you to grow your store or help make a piece of your process easier is always going to be a worthwhile endeavor and a worthwhile investment. And you don't have to read all of them every day. Again, it's sort of kind of like the method for goal setting, but, signing up for these newsletters and just making sure that on some sort of regular basis, you are taking the time to survey the landscape and make sure that you're not just getting comfortable and sitting back because you've had some success. Keeping an eye on what others are doing and what new innovations and technologies available to help you get to that next level is, again, always going to be a good investment of your time and will be quintessential in that future proofing element that we're talking about. So keeping an eye on the future, keeping an eye on the horizon of what's available and how can you use it to benefit and to serve your audience better. And then this kind of will feed into my last point of just staying current. So again, making sure that you are in some capacity looking to trends in the market or new products and apps that are available to help you. E-commerce is growing so rapidly right now that, I don't know if a week or month goes by that there aren't new innovations in this space and new things that you can take advantage of to serve your customers better, to alleviate any pain points in the customer journey that we'll talk about in a minute, or to expand your reach. So just keeping an eye on that business side of it and making sure that you're aware of advancements in this field so that you can capitalize on them when they're available. All right. So I mentioned this a little bit, but this concept of owning the customer journey is, again, something that I don't hear a lot of authors talk about or think about. But as we see, more and more authors being involved in e-commerce and deciding to sell their books directly to their audience, this is so important. And Sarah talked about this with some of the things like, the things that you see when you get on a website. So this is lead me into my first point here is think about your favorite websites. So we've all had experiences online that are bad. We've all had experiences online that have been enjoyable. So I probably don't need to tell you this, but you want to be in the enjoyable category. So, it takes very little for me personally, if I am trying to buy something or visit a website, I'm not going to give them that much time to correct, something that I find negative. So if I land on a website, there's a million pop-ups, or one of my pet peeves, Sarah mentioned this earlier, but having to put in your email address to just access a website or look at something on a website, I find that very frustrating because, Sarah mentioned this, but that trust isn't there yet. I just got to this website. So asking me to give you my email address is a bit of a turnoff. So this could be a fun activity. Do some online shopping, go to, other bookstores that you have bought before, and going to other author websites. How are they navigating this? Are they making it easy for you to find their books? Is it, do you have to jump through hoops and click out of pop-ups and scroll down the page, to the very bottom to find a way to buy the thing that you're looking for? So as you're online, as you're spending time, just doing everyday activities online, be thinking about what makes a website stand out to you as a good experience. And alternatively, what is standing out to you as a bad experience? We've talked about a couple things already, but just keep a running list of these things and try to figure out how you can make it as a positive, simple experience for the customer as possible. Because my next point is help them help you. So they come to your website, they found you, they found your website, and they want to support you. They want something from this experience. So whether it's reading about a blog post that you have, whether it's, possibly a nonfiction author, they need your expertise for a certain topic. For fiction authors, maybe you have a new release and they love your genre, they want to buy your book. Identify what they're coming to you for. And again, this will go to data and analytics can help you kind of narrow this down. But figure out what that is and serve that up as easy as possible. There's some sort of technical terms as, above the fold, which means you're putting really pertinent information at the top of the page so that your readers and your audience don't have to scroll around and try to guess where you're hiding this information they're looking for. So having, things like a really simple top navigation that just has your main pages that you want people to be going to is a great way to do that. You don't ever want readers to kind of get down a rabbit hole and not really know where they're going or how to find your latest work and how to support you. So again, these first 2 points really work in tandem with each other. So what websites make it really easy for you to buy and have a transaction or interact with their content? What websites are making it harder? And again, you want to go with the easy route. Make it easy. Let them help you. So another thing here is to complete end-to-end testing. So I talked about this if anyone tuned into our webinar from last week, but end-to-end testing is sort of, again, another maybe a bit technical term, but what I mean here is once you have your shop set up, once you're ready to let those orders start flowing in, be the customer, go through the process from start to finish. So from pulling up your website's homepage to navigating through to buy the book, to placing the order, to the confirmation, all of this, go through every single step. End to end. So from the start to the beginning, so you can see what the pain points might be. You can see if you have any blind spots or problems within the process and make sure that you can address those and get in front of them before, the floodgates open and everyone's rushing to buy your book, as we know will happen. And then you realize, maybe you don't have enough the character limit in your address fields, or you're missing something there, or like Sarah mentioned, you don't have your contact information, so people aren't sure how to get in touch with you if they have questions about the product or the order process. Another great tip here that Sarah had mentioned before is when you're doing this end-to-end testing, go through it yourself, of course, then have someone else who may be a friend or colleague or family member go through the order process as well. So they can say to you, oh, it was a little bit hard for me to figure out where I was supposed to go to buy your books, or this wording was a bit confusing to me, or, I didn't know how to, add more than one book to my cart, whatever. There's a myriad of things that people can struggle with in all of life. So having another set of eyes and another source of feedback for the order process is just a great way to, again, highlight any issue in front of before you go live or kind of open up shop. This is sort of like a dress rehearsal before the big show, if you will. Sarah already touched on this, but you want to make sure your contact information is easy to find. So again, this really goes into making sure that your website seems trustworthy and comfortable and just helping people get to that point where they want to buy. And again, Sarah, I think you mentioned this before, but always looking at the address on a website, is maybe something. So, probably not your home address, but you want to do whatever you can to make sure that the reader can trust you and feels good about sharing their contact information or credit card information with you. So having contact info is a good way to do that. So what I mentioned about some of the pros of e-commerce and getting that transactional data and being able to connect with your readers on that level, that data can help you drive engagement. So getting those email addresses, as I said, email lists are so important. And if you haven't considered this, or it's not really on your radar, again, we have some great blog posts. We did a Lulu video about growing your email list. But email marketing is one of the most successful methods of marketing, even more so than social media, because with email marketing, you have a direct line into the inbox, which, most people argue is more intimate than, having a follow on social media. This person has given you their email address. They're saying, I want to hear what's new and what's next with you. I want to be in touch with you. I am willing to get your newsletters. I'm willing to kind of go along with you on this journey. So don't take that for granted. So however you have your email capture, whether that be through, an appropriately placed keyword there, appropriately placed email collection box on your site, or pop up at some point in the customer journey could be one way to do it. Or as people are ordering ordering products from you, there's always an email grab there, so they can be in touch with you, or you can communicate with them, an order confirmation, which is very important, I think, as well. So don't, let that go to waste. You have so many opportunities there to really engage, ask for feedback, and get people involved with your process as an author and as a business. So use that customer data to help you drive engagement, when you can, and email list is a great way to do that. Again, I'm not a broken record, but I have said this a couple of times. Regularly review performance. So, you've set up this customer journey. You're making it easy for people to buy your books. You're making it easier for them to contact you. You got all of it going. So take that time to stop and think, hey, could I make this better? Or I was just on this website. I love their welcome series that they had. So how can I implement that for myself? Or I've noticed that, I have a bounce rate on my homepage. Why is that? What can I do to keep people on the website to get them through to that transactional phase? So taking the time to review these things, and the world that we live in now, there's so many tools available for you to review analytics, to get insights into how your audience is interacting with your content, with your website, the path that they're going to get to your books or your products that you're selling. So you have all of this data available, but again, it's worthless if you're not taking the time regularly to go through it and make sure everything is kind of adding up to growing your business, to reaching those goals that you've already set.
Great. So we've reviewed a lot of things, and you may have some questions about general best practices and the customer journey, and how to scale and future-proof a web store that you that you create. I'm sorry. So I wanted to talk about quickly, and then we'll get to some questions. I wanted to talk about 2 ways that Lulu offers this, and then just maybe share a little bit of exciting information as well. So there are 2 solutions that we have where you can plug in a Lulu book that you may already have to sell it on a store that you create. So on the left, you'll see the little green and white awning over Shopify. Shopify is, if not the top, it's one of the top brands out there where it lets you create a website, and it has a lot of the built-in tools we talked about. And you can sell your book from there. And then right now there's a way within their apps. So they have apps on Shopify, just like, a smartphone has apps. You can kind of make your smartphone customized to look like you want it. Websites also have apps. And so Shopify has this huge app store, and in it, there's an app called the Lulu Express app. And if you add that app to your Shopify store, you can set up your book as a product and sell it. So the platform Shopify itself has a lot of other built-in tools like tax collection and integrated with your social media sites. You can connect a URL if you own a special URL that you have to your Shopify store as well. So that's just one way that we have a solution for Lulu connecting your Lulu book to commerce and being a merchant yourself and owning that process. The other way is through something called our Open API. And API just stands for Application Programming Interface. And what this is, if you were on the last webinar, you heard me talk about it for a while in the Q&A session. But what the API is it's like you're pulling back the curtain and looking at the code that would go direct from a website you have and connecting it to Lulu's print network through code that we offer. This is the kind of process where if you want to go set up the Open API, which means, it's almost like you're taking an extension cord and a plug and you're plugging them in together, but you can't see it other than going and writing it in the code. So it's going to take a developer or somebody who has experience with APIs probably to do this for you. If you have a custom built website, the API is a great option because, you don't have apps like a Shopify platform would. So just some other exciting news is we're planning on opening up later this year some more platform connections. And so just like we have a connection to Shopify, we're working on having a connection to other popular platforms. So just wanted to mention that in case you have a connection with the platform already and you're wondering if that's going to be one, just keep an eye on our social media posts and announcements that we have. We'll definitely let you know when they're available. So I'll stop here. Actually, before I stop, let me go ahead and say this too. If you've joined this webinar because you're intrigued about this, but you're just not quite ready to jump in on it, one thing you can do is if you don't want to be your own merchant, but you have a website, you can add a link on your website to your Lulu product page. So if your book is for sale on Lulu or through distribution, link back to your Lulu store. I would say Lulu store just because you earn more money that way. Maybe you would link to your Amazon store if you want to encourage somebody to write a review. But again, it goes back to what your goals are. But that's a great way you can kind of take baby steps towards the big step of being your own merchant. I'll stop now and let Chelsea jump in and see if we have anything she wants to talk about before we go answer some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. No, that was a great point. Yes, if you are not ready to dive headfirst into the e-commerce solutions world, we also have other ways to sell your book. So thank you for bringing that up. And exciting things on the horizon, so keep an eye out. Sign up for our email list if you haven't. Okay, so just really quickly, just to touch on some free sources that we have. So I mentioned the Lulu blog. We've also got the Help Center with a ton of knowledge-based articles, ranging from everything from file setups to payment information and things like that. Also, our Lulu University, you can search that on YouTube and it'll pull up all of our tutorials and videos that we've done that may be helpful to you. So if you...
Chelsea, I don't know if you can hear me, but you just cut out a little bit. I'm going to jump in. I don't know if anybody can hear Chelsea. Chelsea, just pop into the chat if you want me to take over the line of questioning because your audio has cut off. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start with some of the connections here that we have. Okay, so David James had a question. I'm just going to start from the top of the questions, go to from the most recent down to the others. So he said, can you connect a Shopify account with a website that you already have? Okay, Eduardo said we can't hear Chelsea. Okay, so I'll go ahead with questioning. She may hop back on if her internet might have cut off or something. So you can connect a Shopify account with something that you've already had. I've seen this happen before where they own a website and they want to create the Shopify checkout. You can have the shop page of your website be a Shopify specific checkout. And so how this works is you have a Shopify account, and I think, and please go research this, but I think the particular account that you want is the Shopify Lite account. But if you have the that one, you can set up the connection from Lulu Print Network, your book, Shopify, and then prop that up on your website and make that available for sale there. So it takes a little bit of tweaking, but it is possible. I've seen lots of people do it. Let me go down to other questions. Ooh, a good one here. I've seen books that are featured online, and I have seen where people have taken a look at it. Isn't that fun to be able to see the analytics where somebody's poking around in your store? But for some reason, they haven't gone ahead and purchased the actual books. Do you have any ideas of why this is happening? So I expect that there would be some kind of threshold that is normal for traffic that leaves. It's called abandonment. And then there's cart abandonment. That's when somebody adds something to a cart and they leave. Of course, we have no direct insight into what is actually going on there. But what I would do for you is research typical rates where people leave a product page. And if that rate is 50% and your rate matching in your analytics is 50%, I don't think you have anything to worry about. But if you have a higher rate of people who are looking at products on your site but leave, there's possibly a reason. So go back to some of the things that we've talked about and look and see if you are perhaps, maybe it has to do with the value statement not being correct, or maybe it has to do with, adding it to cart and the price changing, or there could be some small point there where it's going awry and you can't figure it out. The other thing is to have a second opinion on that. Ask a friend to sit down with you, and maybe they can determine why people are leaving. So that's one thing. What's not acceptable in this case is asking people why they're leaving directly, your customer shoppers. So, if you want to try to even have like a chat box available, there are apps where you can have a chat pop up on a website, and maybe that's not the 24/7 experience, but if you have time to do that during the day, you might get some good feedback that way. Okay, one question here from Carol. I have a problem getting my shipping set up with the Lulu app. The customer service is, and then there's the wide-eyed emoji. I need help with this. Carol, email integrations@lulu.com. We have a dedicated team who can help with helping get set up with this kind of stuff. They work only on the Shopify app e-commerce solutions as well as the API. Again, that email address is integrations with an S at lulu.com. And screenshot maybe the specific issue and tell them where you're getting caught. Give them as much information as possible. That'll help resolve your issue quickly. Okay, let's see here. One of my pain points with Lulu is the level of customer service. If I implement this, how much will I be able to help my customers, especially if their order was not sent by Lulu, lost in the mail? I've had a customer who bought 4 books and only 1 was received from Lulu. So if there is a shipping issue, and this does happen every now and then, just so you know, it's fewer than 1% of orders have any issues at all at Lulu. And we have a dedicated team who is available to help. Our knowledge base and our Connect tab on the regular Lulu store is able to help with that. We have, again, specific help for people who are using our e-commerce solution, and they will work with you to help resolve the issue. Okay, let me keep going. Quatina asked, how are tax and shipping handled if I linked? So e-commerce platforms a lot of times will have built in, oh, it looks like Chelsea might be back. Chelsea, can you hear me?
Yes, I am so sorry. That was very dramatic.
That's okay. Okay. So what I've been doing is just answering some questions. And so I'll keep going on with them. If there's one that you want to jump in on, please do. The recent one that was asked is, how are tax and shipping handled if I linked? So I was saying that a lot of the platforms that you see out there have tax tools built in where it will set up whatever appropriate tax needs to be collected from that local, state, national, or international tax agency, or the specific government rules that need to be handled that way. Now, if it's the API, you're going to want to have some kind of tax set up, handled through whatever merchant service you have. So if you have a setup with the API, we're assuming that you have a cart process already linked in within your specific website, and it should be handled through that. We do have a lot of tax information in our knowledge base specific to e-commerce. So there's some things there, as well as a lot of people will say, well, I have a tax exemption status. We can certainly work with you on that. If you provide the appropriate paperwork, we can also pass on that benefit of having it be tax exempt through checkout on Lulu. Chelsea, this might be one for you. And David, you might be the one who asked earlier. And David asked, he was asking about people who abandon his pages, which I think, I pointed out was a cool thing to see, because pages are abandoned all the time. And my suggestion was to go look at what some standard rates for that are. And if his is widely far from whatever the standard abandonment rate is for a page, to maybe do some research and digging around about why that's happening on his page. So, but the question I'm looking at now is, how would I be able to improve traffic for my books? This is a good one, especially right before the holidays. Do you have any tricks for that one, Chelsea?
Yeah. So I think that one of the best things, if you're not already using or invested in or researching the SEO and SEM, these things can be really key in making sure that your books are getting served up when people are searching for those terms. Even looking for, like, there's a website called Answer the Public that I like to look at from time to time. And so if you go to that website, it might be a .org, but just Google Answer the Public, and you can type in keywords. So if your books are about, maybe it's a nonfiction book on how to do a plant-based diet or something like that. So you could type in those keywords of plant-based, and it'll give you all of the terms people are searching for related to that. So you could say, things like, why would I go plant-based, or how do I start going plant-based? So doing some keyword research and seeing what people are searching for specific to the topic you're writing about could be a really great way to plug in those keywords, make sure you're using them within your metadata for your website. This is sort of about some of that, what you don't see that Sarah was talking about, but making sure that you have all these terms and keywords somewhere in your website or in your metadata so that people who are looking for a plant-based book, yours is going to be served up first. So to get more traffic to your website, that is one thing that I would consider. Also, social media ads, of course, are a good way to get people to click over. If they're already following you on social, that's a good thing to look into. But if you are not looking, if you're not working with any sort of SEM or SEO analytics or working with those algorithms, I would suggest doing that. And like Sarah said, now is a great time to start with the holidays coming.
Awesome. That's great information, Chelsea. Okay, so I've been scrolling around looking at some more questions here, and there are some that seem to be along the lines of data and selling. First, I'm going to go to Stan, because he said, if I put a link for Lulu for my book, if I put a link to Lulu for my book, does Lulu handle the tax remittance to the states and beyond? Yes, we collect. If the checkout is on Lulu's site, then we handle collecting tax from you, your customers, anybody who checks out, and remit that appropriately as well. And then getting up to some more questions. This is a great one. So Mandy said, where can we see analytics of who bought our books on Lulu? So this really is one of the main points about what sets a merchant store that you handle apart from any other place your book is sold. So if you think about Amazon, Lulu, Barnes and Noble, Indie Bookshop, anywhere your book is going to be available online, picture that, envision that as a store. So you don't get to collect the information of the person who is perusing the book and buying the book at the point of sale. The only person who gets that is Lulu. And it's the same thing as, like, if you go to a website, let's say you're going to a website to buy a product that is sold on the wholesale level. Like if you go to Amazon and you're buying sunglasses, does that sunglass wholesaler get your contact information? No, they don't. Do you want them to? No, you probably don't. And if you did, you would reach out to them directly, because you don't want them to start sending you emails. You already have their product. You know how to get in touch with them if you need to. So the privacy policy that we offer our shoppers to our bookstore is that we won't share their information with the authors. And the same thing goes for Amazon. They're not going to tell you any information about the people who are shopping on their sites. You might get some insights from reviews that are posted, but the only analytics you are privy to are the ones that you would have set up if you were the merchant. So you would get the analytics and the data if you set up your own store and had a checkout there. So hopefully that helps answer that question. So let's see here. Cindy said, I jumped in a bit late, so apologies if you covered this. How do you set up a Lulu shop? You mentioned being able to link your book on your website straight to Lulu's store. So there's two ways that you can set up books. And one is, you go through Lulu. We've been doing this for almost 20 years. We've got a system where it walks you through the process of being able to upload a PDF, create a cover. We give you lots of tools for creating the book, and then make it for sale. And anybody can do it. It's a really easy process. And from there, we give you more tools if you'd like to make your book for sale on things like Amazon. So that's one way to do it. And then you could just grab the URL or link that book to your website if you wanted to make it for sale that way. If you weren't ready to jump in and create the book on your website yourself as a product and link it to our print network through our Shopify app or the API.
Sarah, speaking of selling on Amazon, and I don't think we've answered this yet, but Richard had asked, when you're setting up a book on Lulu, what's the best option to pick if you want to sell on Amazon? So I would just note, when you're on Lulu and you're building your book, there's an icon that denotes what is available for what we call global distribution, which will be putting your book on Amazon, Ingram's catalog, and Barnes & Noble as well. So my recommendation there is that as you are building your book, just make sure all of your selections have that green circle with a white check, I believe is what it's a green globe with a book. So just make sure that your configurations have that. Because that is indicating that our distribution partners can fulfill those orders. So if you are interested in going global distribution route, then just make sure that the book that you're choosing to make has meets those requirements, and you'll be able to tell that by looking for that little icon.
That's great information. Thanks, Chelsea. Sure. I'm going to answer one more question, and then I see some people have joined late, and my best advice for the late joiners is a lot of these things we answered earlier, and we're going to offer the recording of the webinar. We're going to send it out to everybody who's registered, and it'll also be available, I think, on our YouTube channel. But I did want to get to at least one more question before we did that. And this is a pretty important one. Did you just say we can't obtain the customer's name if we sell through Lulu? So I just want to be real clear about how this works. Books that are checked out on Lulu, meaning Lulu collects the money, somebody is placing an order on a lulu.com page, you do not get to know anything about your customer at that point. You do get to earn revenue, and we put that in your dashboard information, like the sales data that's there. Those are the analytics you do have there, but you don't. You would get to know your customer's information if you are the merchant of record and the customer is checking out on a website that you own. Now, how that connects to Lulu, again, this is going back to the whole idea that Lulu is a good provider for e-commerce, is there are tools that we have where you are taking the product that is being sold on your website and plugging it into our global print distribution network. So I hope that answers that question. And Chelsea will wrap it up and give some information about how to get this recording if you'd like to listen again.
Yes. So I believe within 24 hours, you will get an email with the replay link from Webinar Jam. And then alternatively, if you don't get that email for some reason, or you want to access it through another medium, we will post this to our YouTube channel probably within about 24 hours or so. So that's a great way to watch the replay, and you can view all of our other webinars that we've done previously. Again, if you're interested in seeing future webinars, then bookmark or visit webinars.lulu.com, and we'll have that updated with our next webinar shortly. And let's see. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you have any questions for us, you can email us at webinars@lulu.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you if we didn't get to your question today. Let's see. Anything else, Sarah, that we need to note here?
I think this covers about it. We, one of the things I mentioned is if you're having trouble setting up, as a few people asked in the chat, if you're having trouble with the shipping or taxes, or you're setting up your store, integrations at lulu.com is a great place to receive a little bit of extra help on that.
Oh, I'll end it with Kathy Bridges' question. Does having your own website prevent you from other distributions in any way? So I just want to note that it doesn't. And what's great about these solutions is you can pick and choose what's right for you, your goals, your book, and your audience. So creating your own website and selling your books directly through them does not exclude you from selling on other platforms. And thank you for that question. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today, spending a little bit of time with us. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.